Roll for Crit presents How to Play Forgotten Waters in 5 minutes or less or more. Forgotten Waters is the storytelling adventure game of pirates, plunder, and laughs. Designed by Isaac Vega, J. Arthur Ellis, and Mr. Bistro, and published by Plaid Games. In Forgotten Waters, each player takes on the role of a different pirate, working together aboard a pirate ship. Your goal is to complete a series of objectives, which change depending on your chosen scenario. Each player receives a pirate standee, a 12-sided die, a treasure chest card, and a folded-up player sheet. Here you can write your pirate name, keep track of your pirate skills, and play a little game of Mad Libs in order to complete your personal backstory. You'll be using the game's web app while playing, which will give you specific instructions as to the setup of the map, the state of your ship, and any other starting bonuses. In addition to player sheets, each player will also have a specific role assigned to them, or even 2 or 3 roles if you don't have a full 7 players. The ship scribe keeps track of the ship scribe sheet, writing the ship's name and making any notes when instructed to. The quartermaster tracks the group's infamy. The first mate monitors the happiness of the crew. The boatswain keeps an eye on the ship's hull. The cooper stays on top of supply levels. The gunner manages cannons, and the lookout tracks threat tokens. All players have access to this information, but you should try to be mindful of your role's responsibilities in particular. We'll get into exactly what all those things mean as we go. During any given round of Forgotten Waters, the location book will be open to a certain page. The main feature of each location book page is a list of actions. First, you'll decide what to do during the planning phase. The quartermaster will start the timer from the app. This is how long players have to make their decisions. You'll decide which action you want to take, 1 player at a time, in order from highest to lowest infamy level. Infamy levels are determined randomly at the start of the game, but infamy can be gained or lost during play. For example, if 1 player was told to gain 2 infamy, the quartermaster would move their token 2 spaces up the track. Gaining infamy has no effect if you're already at the top, and likewise, losing infamy has no effect if you're already at the bottom. So, in the planning phase, the player with the most infamy gets to choose an action first by placing their standee at that position. Then the next highest player does the same, and so on until everyone has chosen or time runs out. If everyone can't decide before the timer runs out, discontent is raised by 1. Too much discontent can lead to losing the game, but don't worry about the time too much. During this phase, you shouldn't be overthinking which actions do what, or even examining their outcomes closely in advance. Instead, use the symbols printed underneath each action as a guide. These will indicate what you'll be most likely to encounter taking that action, such as something relating to a specific skill, the chance to find treasure, or a way to affect the status of your ship or crew. Actions with these green symbols mean any number of players can go there in the same round, while blue actions only have room for a single player at a time. If an action becomes locked, it's off limits, and if an action has this red icon, that means that 1 player must choose it during the round. Once all players are assigned, you'll resolve each action in order from top to bottom. If multiple players are at an action, they resolve it 1 at a time in infamy order. Consult the right side of the book page to find the appropriate instructions and follow them. Most commonly, you'll be asked to make a skill check. This is a roll of your die, plus an enhancement from the appropriate skill. For example, if you were asked to make an exploration check, you'll roll your die and add to that result the total number of boxes you have filled in the exploration section of your skill chart on your player sheet. At the start of the game, you won't have any filled in, but anytime you're instructed to gain 1 in that skill, you'll fill in the leftmost empty square. Some pirates have different skill thresholds than others, so you can't fill in squares if they're blocked off by one of these X's. Also notice that some boxes have stars in them. If you fill in one of these, you also get to fill in a circle in your constellation at the top of the sheet. The circle you fill must be either adjacent to an existing filled-in circle or to the center start space. Each time you fill in a circle with an exclamation point in it, you'll receive a Constellation event token. At various points in the game, you'll be asked to trade these in order to resolve Constellation events from your player sheet. These may provide you with rewards, and the more you complete, the better your pirate's ending will be when the game's finished. If you get a bad roll, don't fret. You may also come across reroll tokens as you play. If you have one, you can spend it in order to reroll the die 1 time, usable only during a skill check. On the other hand, you could also gain misfortune tokens. If you have one of these, you'll be forced to spend it during your next skill check. You'll roll your die twice and must use the lower result for the purposes of that check. Finally, once you've got your result, the book will tell you what it means. If it tells you to read an entry, enter the entry number into the app. You'll get to experience a story moment and possibly be asked to make a choice of some kind. You might receive a reward, such as another skill point, or a treasure or story card. Treasure cards are drawn randomly from the treasure deck. You can only hold a maximum of 4 treasures at a time. If you would draw a 5th, you'll have to either discard it or replace one of your old ones with the new one. Some treasure cards give you temporary increases to your skill levels. Don't actually mark these on your skill chart, just note them and add them during skill checks. Cards have a variety of unique effects, so read them carefully. If instructed to take a story card, you'll need to search for the story card of a specific number. These have their own special effects and do not count towards your limit of 4 treasures. Something else you can do with treasure cards, by the way, is bury them if the action comes up. Burying treasure allows you to fill in more of your constellation circles. Another common outcome of actions will be to affect your ship's various tracks. You might gain or lose supplies, crew, hull, etc. The player whose job it is should adjust these when instructed. Certain locations will also bring these dials with different letters into play. They'll represent various things depending on where you are, and will also need to be adjusted according to the instructions you're given. You can also have up to 4 cannons of various levels on your ship, and they can be either loaded or unloaded. Higher level cannons will give you better bonuses to skill checks if given the opportunity to use them. Most of your actions will take place at sea or at an island, and you'll be getting around to those places when an action or effect calls for you to scout or sail. You sail by moving the ship 1 space in any direction on the map. If that space is empty, draw 1 random navigation token for that space before moving. Note that there are also special navigation tokens, which are only used when the game calls for it. If the token your ship moves to has a red exclamation point on it, that means the ship can't move any further during that round. If it's a rocky waters token, the ship can't move into it at all. Moving into an empty space can be risky, which is why sometimes you'll be able to scout. Scouting allows you to take a number of exploration tokens and place them face down in an empty spot adjacent to the ship or adjacent to a previously placed token. Then you reveal them to get a sense of where you might be headed. Don't read a token's entry number until the app tells you to. Once all the selected actions have been carried out by all players, the round ends. The location page will instruct you to read a new entry, which will give you further direction. As you travel, you may gain threat tokens. These don't have an immediate effect, but if you're ever instructed to check threat, you need to compare the number of threat tokens you have to the number of threat symbols on the current objective card. If it's equal to or higher than that, you read the next unread threat entry. If this happens 5 times, the game is lost. You can also lose if your hull reaches 0, or if discontent is equal to or higher than the crew number. You win by completing the scenario's objective cards, which usually involves traveling to specific locations and carrying out specific actions. Players who fulfilled at least 4 of their constellation events win the game, and players who fulfilled all 5 win the game even harder. Now everyone can read out their endings and go have some rum to celebrate. In conclusion, sail, fight, find treasure, and be the most skilled pirate you can be. That's Forgotten Waters in a nutshell. Did you get all that?